This podcast is made possible in part by Winona, where menopause care is made easy. Winona offers personalized, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy to ease your menopause journey. Discover compassionate care and personalized treatments delivered to your doorstep at bywinona.com. Check your eligibility and start feeling like your best self again, starting today.
Hola, welcome to Word to Your Mama, the podcast that amplifies diverse voices and celebrates shared experiences. Hosted by me, Ritzy P., a Latina creative entrepreneur with a background in art, music, and new web technologies. From Academy and Emmy winners to activists, artists, and builders, we celebrate the rich diversity of my multicultural tribe. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Word to Your Mama drops every Monday on your favorite podcast platform. Diversity and inclusion in the TV and film industry. Is it possible? Well, the conversation that I had with this week's guest gives us hope. I think it gives us all hope because we know that there's someone like her who's been doing the work, who is doing the work, and who will continue to do the work. And that person is Fanshen Cox. Fanshen is the founder and president of TruJuLo Productions. She's also the host and producer of Sista Brunch podcast, where they share stories of Black women and gender-expansive people in the entertainment industry. She's also the co-author of The Inclusion Writer. And after we recorded this, a couple of months ago, she has just been appointed the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Initiative Manager of the California Film Commission. And talk about multicultural, she's the full embodiment of that because she's Danish, Cherokee, Blackfoot, and Jamaican. And this convo was supposed to happen last year, but we put a squash on it because of the strikes. We wanted to be respectful and we wanted to honor the mission of the strikes, not talk about anything entertainment, past, future, present. So we put it on hold, and I reached out to her again a little bit after, the last ones were resolved to see if it was okay, allowed, if she had the bandwidth to do it. She said yes. So in this episode, we discuss her interesting multicultural upbringing, why she has a Chinese name, and the powerful meaning behind it. When she knew that this work in TV and film was her path, what the Inclusion Writer is, who co-authored it with her, and the realities of the real progress. And we're talking about what was going on pre-George Floyd and what was going on after George Floyd when it comes to all of this type of work. Things that, we have to accept when we work within a capitalist society. The real truth and what that means and what that is, and the real love and the real justice, and how her podcast, Sista Brunch, got started, and so much more. Both of us knew that this convo could be a lot because of the things that we covered. But I think we did a fantastic job of reining it in and staying on course and on task, but still keeping it 1,000% real, but also being hopeful. And being realistic, I think, realistic about how to approach this work in this industry, in these industries, or in any industries. So yes, let's do this. Fanshen, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited for people to hear your amazing story and for me to find out as we're listening to all the details. So let's start off by how I start off every episode. How are you doing? ¿Cómo estás?
Muchas gracias por preguntarme. Yes, that's the extent of that. For real, I'm so glad to be here, and I want to say thank you for your patience because we had scheduled this right before strikes, a couple strikes in a row that happened, and so I love watching your podcast, and we have so much in common. So I just want to say I'm really good right now because I'm here finally, and we made this happen. So truly, I'm in a good place. There's a lot happening, but it's all things that I love. And so, yeah, I'm in a good place. ¿Cómo estás tú? Or ¿cómo está usted? Which one is appropriate?
Estoy bien, muchísimas gracias. No, for real. It's like when that went down, I was like, oh shit. You know, knowing how the law, like how it worked, and I didn't want to be that person. And so that's why I reached out to you and I was like, listen, what do we got to do? We postpone it? Like, let me know what's in the wheelhouse or what's, what's appropriate. And you were like, oh yeah. Like,
I appreciate it.
So I was like, okay, for sure. Like, let's not try to talk about things, even if someone is not on the podcast. Like, what can we do? Like, I was trying to be really mindful and, we're on this other side. Touching briefly on that, did it take as long as you anticipated? Was it shorter or longer? What was your personal take on it when it went down?
You know what? This is one of those multi-generational things because the young people, I think, were more hopeful about it. And they were exactly what I would have said when I was their age. But this time around, in fact, even in the last set of SAG strikes, this time, or the WGA strike, especially this time around, I was a little more negative and was like, they not going to get nothing. And I think a big part of that is AI. I think young people, because they've grown up with tech,
right,
they're not as afraid of it. And they're, they feel a little more, I think, kind of in control to a certain extent.
Right.
And I was like, AI, there's nothing we can do. The train has run, we're out the station. We're good. We're not so good. And then, so for me, it was quick, not in terms of the folks who have been were out of work and still stay out of work. But in terms of, at least, I think there was a more positive outcome than I expected. I'll say that.
Got it. Yeah, man, when you toss the AI, and as someone coming from that tech world, but also being a creative and also knowing the real world applications, how policy takes too long to catch up because tech is so ever evolving. So when the strike on all sides, the writers and the actors put in that perspective, especially like, and I think it really hit me when, I think it was, who played, I can't think of names right now because perimenopause, you know how that goes.
Sister, I'm with you. I might not be able to help, but I try. I just turned 54 on Monday.
Woo,
so
you look
really
amazing. Felicidades. You look amazing. The guy who played, why can't I think of his name? And I'm good with names. The guy who played the Hulk.
Yes, he is fantastic. I love him too. But, two perimenopausal women is the worst possible thing. I love him because Mark Ruffalo. I love his politics. He's cool. He's good.
Yes.
He's doing some good stuff for us. Yes.
Right. So when he said, listen, I saw, I love award seasons because all the round tables, I nerd out and watch every single one. The writers, directors, producers, all of that.
Love it.
When he was like, listen, there's a studio right now that has thousands of hours of my likeness, my voice, that if nothing's done, they could do whatever they want in perpetuity. And I was like, whoa, that's when I think it hit me and probably a lot of others. Like, they're capturing digitally for CGI stuff and all these different things. So, I mean, it's levels upon levels upon levels. We could talk a whole episode about this, but this is about you. So please tell us, where were you born and raised, and the interesting story of where your people are from?
Oh my goodness. So I was born in DC, Washington, DC, which was Chocolate City at the time. Unfortunately, it has changed a lot, but definitely like all Black. My parents were self-proclaimed hippie communists. Black Panthers, they wanted to kind of make a difference in the world. Right. When they got married, so my mom's white, she's Danish, Cherokee, and Blackfoot. My dad is Jamaican, so immigrated here from Jamaica, and in the 50s for school. And they got married when interracial marriage was still illegal in 16 states. So they were like, we're going to do this thing. They end up in DC, and again, this is Chocolate City, so it's a place where, like, even if I look the way I look and some folks don't recognize me as Black, I was born in a Black city and it was very clear from day one that that's what I was. And again, with a white mom, so I call it white adjacent, white privilege adjacent, all of those things too, right? Light-skinned privilege.
Right.
But yeah, so my people are like, mom and dad were both definitely grew up in challenging ways, financially, in terms of dysfunction in their families, but both of them really wanted for their children to help make change in the world. So I'll say, in addition to being therefore, Jamaican and Black and white and Danish and Cherokee and Blackfoot, I have a Chinese name. So my first name, Fanshen, means to turn over or turn the body over in Chinese. And it was the title of my parents' favorite book about a small village during the Mao Revolution in China, when this village took on this word to mean to turn over all the power structures. Revolution.
Wow.
And so that's the people I come from, and the kind of responsibility that was planted in me early on.
Wow. So it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. If you think about their favorite book, what the name means, how the people used it, the revolution, where you were born out of, how it was illegal, your parents' love, and the work that you've been doing and the work that you're doing now. Like, it makes sense. Did it always make sense to you? Like, oh, that's my name. That's it. Or did it one day you're like, oh, it aligns? Or how did that work for you?
Yeah, no. So, so being in DC, and it was not just Chocolate City, it was like a lot of progressives, and so we lived in a commune for a little while, like after my parents did separate, divorce, and my mom raised us in communes there. But then she got a job in Strong, Maine. Now, the population of Strong, Maine, first of all, Maine in and of itself, extremely racist area, and the population of this little tiny town called Strong was like, I always make the joke, it's like 400 people with one Black person, which was my half and my brother's half. So
wow.
Shit was rough. And in Maine, I told people to call me Joanne. So but we moved. She was there for a year. Fortunately, I think it was clear that it was not the healthiest place for any of us to be in. Right. Because also my mother came out. So after my parents' divorce, my mother came out as a lesbian. So raising these, so we then moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, very progressive, lots of, at the time we called us mulatto, biracial, but also a lot of two moms, two dads, a lot, kids named Sunshine and Freedom. So then it was like, oh, okay, this is our place. And that's where I started to embrace my name and start to understand the meaning of it. And, but I know, it's it's geography, whether or not you can live fully in this country and in others, right? Is like, how fully do you get to be liberated and all the things that make up who you are?
Right.
And geography has a lot to do with that. So I was really lucky that eventually, so I was about 9 when we moved there.
That's formative years. Yes, for sure. Because you could have a progressive household, but you're not living in that household 24 hours a day, especially at that age. Right. So it's really about where you're going out. What is the environment? And, I'm super happy to hear that your mom wasn't self-involved to where she was just thinking about her. She seems like she was, had evolved enough to say like, oh, this isn't safe for my children. Let's move here, and also wasn't safe for her, I'm sure, because if she came out during that time, levels upon levels, like that's crazy.
Levels.
That's crazy. And it's great that you were able to find a place first and foremost, because you could have been searching.
Absolutely. And you think, I mean, Boston's right across, right, over the river, as they say, and that's another racist city. Although, you know what, honestly, people, I think there's this myth around Boston. I mean, Boston is racist, but it's segregated, and there is a thriving Black community there, Haitian community there, Cape Verdean community there, Vietnamese community there. So one thing, in fact, in my work, and I know we'll talk about this later, but just in terms of film and television and media development, is like I'm determined
Right.
because people that I've worked with in the past are responsible for people thinking Boston is all white, that it's racist and white. And I'm like, it is racist, but it's not all white. So that was another beautiful thing, is not just being in Cambridge, which was this kind of like multicultural, haven for, kids of, parents that were at MIT and Harvard, but also kids in the projects, and like this, coming together of all these folks. But Boston, also being in Boston and being exposed to Black Bostonians who go back for generations and have their own history and heritage of revolt in Boston, families, that really were powerful and resilient. I was really lucky to be exposed to that.
That's fantastic. And so in your upbringing, when was your root? When did you say, oh, film, TV, acting, storytelling of that nature is for me? When did that hit you?
Second grade, bilingual classroom. I was very fortunate to my second grade year. I went, my mom, again, very wisely enrolled me into a bilingual elementary school, and we did the Nutcracker. We did the Nutcracker as the play, and it wasn't like the ballet. It was like they gave us lines to memorize, and I was the Sugar Plum Fairy, and I got up on stage in the second grade. I think I did it half in Spanish, half in English, but I was like, oh, I literally still remember seeing that there was this kind of interaction with a live audience that you can't find in any other medium. There's music that, that's not this live, this opportunity to have an interaction with people simultaneously. And I didn't think of it that way at the time, but I was like, oh, this is the thing I want to do. So I really started off as an actor because of that experience.
That's amazing. During that time, did anyone have like VHS or something of it? Like, is there any?
Girl, oh, I love you. I'm a little older than you then, because
only a little bit,
Shoot.
only by a little bit.
Sister, we didn't even have TV. No. I mean, there were TVs, but we didn't have TVs. No. This was like
pre.
Yeah, this was pre. This was like, this was still, most folks still had black and white TV. At least everyone I knew, still had black and white TVs. So no. So there's no recordings of it.
No
we
photos.
didn't have that
Wow.
And
these kids, man.
Yeah, not even photos.
And these kids, man, they don't. My TV.
They got a whole studio. They got an entire production studio in their pocket.
Whenever they want. We had black and white TV. I had a black and white TV where I had to use the pliers to change the channel. And then I got a color one that I had to use pliers to change the channel. Like, people don't understand that. They don't understand the struggle. I tried to tell my son, and he was like, what? Like, he can't even fathom. That's
I
hilarious.
love your son.
Oh,
I love
you.
your son. Really, truly, when you mentioned, just about my mom being intentional, you are so clearly intentional about how you're raising him. And that's just beautiful.
Oh,
it's beautiful. You. And he's getting that role model of like creating entertainment that matters too.
Yes.
Not everybody is doing that with their kids. So congratulations on that too. You're doing great.
Imagine. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I received that, and
yes.
I received that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we got your root. You got into that. You are a co-author of The Inclusion Writer. Please explain to the folks exactly what that is, how it started, and the realities of whatever you could share of how it's actually going with it right now.
Right, because there's George Floyd, then there's post George Floyd, which is, so
Right.
so the inclusion rider is a legal addendum, meaning like an addition that you would add to a contract. So in Hollywood, when you're starting to negotiate to be in a movie, let's say, a celebrity is negotiating their contract with a studio. Their attorneys draw up paperwork, right? Legal contracts. Then you can add things called riders, and it's not writer, but RIDER. It's a rider, a thing that you would add to a contract. A lot of celebrities use these things to say, like, I want a luxurious trailer during the whole time we're shooting, or I want, all brown M&Ms
Right.
in my, some bullshit. We said, what if we have in your rider, create a rider for you that says that the studio or production company is going to commit to a process of inclusive hiring. And by inclusive, we mean Black, brown, Asian, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, color, darker skinned people. Like we mean get this right in a way that reflects what the world looks like, and in ways that you have historically disappeared us from. And so that's what it is. And anyone with leverage that is going into negotiating their contracts can bring this in. It's open source. It's on my website. It's on the attorney who created it on her website. Like it's on and it's a template. So your attorney can take it and, tweak it for what you need and take it into your negotiations. So I created this with two other women. One of them is Dr. Stacy Smith at USC. She does a lot of data collection and analysis on representation or lack of representation in the industry, and, uses it in really strong ways to kind of shame the industry, ultimately, and just say, like, do you see this? Like, maybe you don't see it. So here's some numbers,
Right.
Since numbers mean so much to you in Hollywood, right? And then the attorney who wrote it, who is brilliant, her name is Kalpana Kodagal, and she is a civil rights attorney with an expertise in labor law. So she was able to really create a document that is rock solid and that is about change, like true systemic change in the industry. So that's what the inclusion rider is. We started working on it in, I think, like 2016, and pushed for, kind of internally in Hollywood, took it around. And then in 2018, Frances McDormand referred to it when she won the Oscar for the Three Billboards movie. And that was amazing. So, all these people, Michael B. Jordan and all these folks signed on, and, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who I was working with, I should say, also publicly agreed to use it. And then, much like happens, all those promises suddenly start to get chipped away. And I was either like, oh yeah, we're doing the inclusion rider, but it was like half of what we said you needed to do, or a quarter of this process. It's a 4-step process. They were doing one of the steps. But oh yeah, we have our own inclusion rider. We have our own rider, and they weren't doing it. And then 2020 happens, and unfortunately, that was the catalyst for, lighting a fire up Hollywood's butt again. And so they start to make all these hires, and they reach out to us. Oh yeah, tell us about this thing. And, and so we did a new version of it, and we also wanted to learn and get better. So we updated our language, like I said, especially around like colorism. We consulted with disability rights activists, before we had just kind of added that language in, and so then it had this new life. We partnered with Color of Change, the civil rights organization that, is very powerful. And so then it kind of got renewed, and the Grammys used it for the Grammys. The Recording Academy used it for the Grammys. They used it for New York Fashion Week. And so that was great. And then everybody started being like, well, we gave you Juneteenth. What more do you want? And so now we back on that slump again of having to, remind folks they said they were going to use it, and and continuing to iterate on our part. Like every time they put up a barrier,
Right.
we go back to work and we're like, oh, okay, here's the answer to that barrier.
Right.
So one of the barriers has been, you're expecting us to make all these hires, but the people don't exist. There's no, the talent to hire doesn't exist. And we're like, yes, they do. So then we've created databases, right? We're like, you want to hire a person with disabilities? Here's a database of qualified people for you to hire. You want to hire Black and brown people, or you need to, here are women, here are LGBT, all those things you say you can't find, here they are. Right. So now we're responding to all the barriers, but it's an, it's an uphill battle, but we not going anywhere.
Exactly. Well, muchísimas gracias for doing that. You and your amazing co-authors. I mean, all of you guys are top-notch folks that know what you're doing. Yeah. And the fact that you're not giving up and you're evolving and you're like, oh, barrier, oh, boop, here's a solution. You know what I mean? Like, I feel in anything, they just want to make it as difficult as possible so that you can tire out. It's by design. You tire out and give up. So to have people like yourself and the rest of the team here still fighting the fight, still being like, hey, what about this? What about that? I mean, it's crazy right now. I have a client who is doing DEI work in the college system, but she's in Texas. And now she has to reword everything because they just passed that one law where anything with DEI, it's out. They can't fund it, so everything has to be reworded. They still get the funds, but it's
now culturally responsive, culturally sensitive.
I mean,
watering it down.
I mean,
girl, I know.
On the policy level, like it's scary, but I mean, what do you feel? It just keep doing what you guys are doing. Is that what we should all take from this?
Yeah. I mean, the way I think of it is like, accept that it takes a long time. Right. Accept that you will have to make some compromises today in order to even for your own. I mean, for my self-care, there are times where I just have to be like, fine. And, and move on to the next project, or, take a nap, or, whatever. I have to be like, if you're not so perfect example. First of all, I will say, I love Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. We've been great friends since we were 9. Matt and I met when we were 9. He's my, he's the younger brother of my older brother, and his older brother were best friends. And so we would tag along with them. Cute. And we did theater together, and we had this incredible high school drama department. So we became very close, and same with Ben. So I do love them. I also feel like they could do better. Right. I feel like when you are in a position of power, you should be like Mark Ruffalo, for me, is an example of somebody who like puts himself out there publicly and then walks the walk. Yeah. And I think that Ben and Matt walk the walk in the way that they believe is the right way. And they need folks around them to be like, you could still do better, right? Right. And so when it came time to decide what was happening with their company, their company was kind of shutting down. They were starting to think about starting a new company called Artist Equity. And I had time to think about, okay, what do I want to do next? And I started my production company called TruJuLo. TruJuLo stands for Truth, Justice, and Love, because we uplift stories that speak truth in pursuit of justice and service of love. And all of those things that for 6 years while working at Pearl Street, I had to justify us making, right? I had to go to people who haven't had the experience of the kinds of stories that I believe in and the kinds of people that I believe in. They don't have that perspective. And it got frustrating to have to prove their worth, prove the worth of those people, prove the worth of those stories. And again, they're smart and have a business sense, which is important. But if it's hard enough to have to get a project made,
Right.
but if you also have to just justify its existence,
Right.
I got tired of that. And so I said, I am going to start my own company so that I can be in charge. I get to be the person who helps say yes to all these projects that I had exposure to, but couldn't develop.
Right.
And so now that's what I'm doing. And so to your point,
Yes.
I am both accepting the limitations of this industry. Look, it's a capital system. So that in and of itself is like, I'm accepting that I am working in a capitalist system. So there are a lot of things that I have to accept that I don't want to, that are hard for me to accept in order to help someone get things done.
Right.
But I'm doing them too. And then I draw the line. I know my principles and values, and I have a very clear line for that. And that's where I draw the line and then keep going.
So you're, for me, from the outside looking in, you're hitting them from different angles, right? You have this writer, you have that way in. Like, how can we get this in? Because we've done the work. Here's the directories. Here's this writer. Here's the systems. Like, you're not just like, say you're going to do this, but how are you going to check on it later? Like, how are you going to check on it and make sure that your people are implementing it correctly? And then you're like, you know what? You're not giving me a seat at the table, so I'm going to build my own table over here.
Exactly. That's exactly. Yep.
And I think that's a great lesson for anyone who's listening or watching, especially the young folks. You know, as women of color, as people of color, disabled, any marginalized community, these are the barriers that, like you said, this is just the reality of what it is. We can be hopeful and wish that it was all a certain way, but it's not. You have to figure out what it actually is. Look at the system as a whole. Look where you fit in that system. And then see where the cracks are. I think that's what we're all doing. And then tell each other, be in community.
Yes.
And have these conversations. I just got back from a 3-day retreat where we're just like, what do rich white men do? They're in these exclusive clubs. They tell each other information. They disperse information, and they recommend each other for all the things. So why don't we do that? Why don't we have these Why don't we have these community meetings and like, hey, like I've dealt with this person. Maybe I'm not gonna put it on blast. But if Fanshen, you're gonna be working with such and such. Well, this is my experience. That's a landmine. Move accordingly.
Yes.
Or this person is going to literally try to lowball you. Go in on this. Like, all that information that the system, the people that are creating the system, the way they work, we have to think that way. The way they operate. But then also include, like your production company, right? Yep. Truth, justice, and love, the way we build, because we build differently. Because we're not just out here trying to build to get this money. We need it. I like nice things, but I'm trying to, I think you and I, that's where we align. We're trying to uplift our community. We're trying to create
that's
an
a
impact.
Nice thing. That's what makes, that's our jewelry. That's our, that's like all those nice things that we like. So I'm so glad you said that, Ritzy, because I'll go a little deeper into truth, justice, love. I mean, it's not, on the surface, it's exactly what it is, right? Is like, every project I touch at my production company has to include those elements.
Right.
And then I go even deeper into that. So by truth, what I mean is, because people are always like, and especially since a certain person was, president for a while, right? Like, what's truth and who's truth, right?
Right.
So I'm like, that's rooted in the non-dominant narratives. that's where you find it. You want to find the truth, it's in the narratives that in our history books growing up. And I was even in a progressive city, and we were still talking about Columbus discovering America, right?
Right.
So who was here before that? That's the truth. The truth lies in those folks, right? The people who created these, who were here. And it is historical. And that's when I talk to young people, I say, you know, especially young people who are grappling with their gender identity and their racial identity. And I'm like, those things are not in a bubble of you right now and who you are. You need to look historically about the fights that happen, the struggles that happen to get to you to where you can identify as non-binary, as an example, right? Like, and I'm down with it, but also there's history there that you need to understand. So truth is that history.
Right. Something I hear from so many women in their 40s and 50s is, oh my gosh, is it hot in here? Or is it just me? But seriously, hot flashes, fatigue, and other uncomfortable symptoms associated with menopause can make you feel like you're not yourself anymore. If you're thinking, yes, that's me, I'm excited to introduce you to Winona. They're making menopause care easier with bioidentical treatments delivered to your door. The best part? Their HRT is made with plant-based bioidentical hormones, not synthetic ones. This means they're identical in molecular structure to those your body already produces, so you can feel your best naturally. And with 80% of Winona patients experiencing relief in just 90 days, it's no wonder they have a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. So if you're tired of struggling with menopause symptoms, visit bywinona.com and check your eligibility today. Once again, that's bywinona.com.
This is your friendly reminder to take a deep breath. Este es tu recordatorio para que respires profundo. Take a deep breath in. Inhala profundo. Exhale as you observe your breath, letting all the air out. Exhala, observando tu exhalación, dejando salir todo el aire. Would you like to help me reach my mission of teaching meditation to 1 million children? ¿Te gustaría ayudarme a alcanzar mi misión de enseñar meditación a 1 millón de niños? I invite you to join me in the Decide Balance Oasis, a safe space where families can find bilingual meditations and mindfulness practices and so much more. Te invito a que te unas conmigo en el Decide Balance Oasis, un espacio seguro donde las familias pueden encontrar meditaciones bilingües y prácticas de atención plena y mucho más. Go to decidebalance.com for more details. I'll see you in the Oasis. Visita decidebalance.com para obtener más información. Nos vemos en el Oasis.
Gracias for listening to Word to Your Mama. I have a unique cross-section of guests on here because I'm a consultant who thrives at the intersection of creative innovation, tech, and community impact. There are a variety of ways we could work together, so check out ritzyperiwinkle.com to learn more. Link in the bio.
As we start to tell the full truths of that history, that is our guide for pursuing justice. Because if we haven't told that full truth, we keep pursuing justice based on a very limited amount of truth.
1000%.
And so we're not getting where we want to get to with that justice because we haven't started off talking about really being fully honest and acknowledging all these truths.
Right.
And then you have love. And a lot of people are like, well, let's get to the love part. Let's get to the love part. I'm like, you already got there. Because if you speak in real truth and you are pursuing justice based on that truth, that is love.
Right.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks
I don't
like.
need your hugs. I don't need your, I love all human beings. I don't need any of that. I need you. If you do love me, if you do love our people, you love us. And if we love us, we going to speak the truth. And we're going to pursue justice based on those full truths. That's love.
1000% 1000%. It's the simple thing like the Ziggy Marley song. If you don't know your past, you don't know your future.
Amen.
And
Yes.
that principle is in healing. Like if anybody who's watching or listening is in therapy, I can't fully heal unless I go back and fully acknowledge and go through
There you
the
go.
fucking
Truth,
ugly
the hard
truth,
shit, the hard shit
The
that we
hard
don't, we
shit.
want to avoid it. We want to do everything not to face it. But that's where it lies. We can't move forward.
No.
We can't make ourselves whole,
No,
in a justice way
no.
without doing that work.
Right.
And we're loving up on ourselves when we do.
Exactly.
That's how we love up on ourselves.
Yeah. Because love includes respect. And so that's
exactly
respect.
So if you one of these like I'm colorblind people, that's not truth. The truth is we can't live colorblind until if we can someday far in the future, fantastic. Oh, we can all live that way. But although I prefer colorful, right?
Yes.
But I'm like you know, I need you to see what is happening to our brothers and sisters. I need you to see that. I need you to and the truth of that.
Right.
So don't tell me you love me by saying, well, I'm kind to everybody no matter what. Well, what's your neighborhood look like?
Exactly.
And who's mowing your lawn?
Right.
And have you spoken truth about that? And do they live in your neighborhood? The people who mow your lawn live in your neighborhood? The people who serve your children their food in the cafeteria at your school, do they live in your neighborhood?
Right.
That's truth.
Right.
And then what are you going to do to make sure that justice is served for those folks so they can live like you live? Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so I knew you and me just call and response through this whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. I knew that too. This is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. No, this is people need to hear this. I think especially right now, it's imperative for people to really, because it's so many things. We're getting pulled in so many directions, so many atrocities, so many things. But this is the work that we need to do on an individual level, on a family level, on an industry level, all that shit.
Yes.
So now let's go into, please tell the folks what your podcast is and all about, because it's super important. I want everyone to know it and to listen to it and support it and tell all their peeps, all their friends about it.
I love that. And this is how we met. It was at Spotify did like a podcast festival for podcasters of color. And we were both like, oh, yes, and so I'm just always so happy to meet, I'm like, keep it coming, keep all the podcasts coming that are us, like keep it, we here for all of it. So yeah, I produce and host a podcast called Sista Brunch. It's SISTA, Sista Brunch. And we interview and share the stories of Black women and gender expansive people who are thriving in entertainment and media. The reason it's called Sista Brunch is that our original co-host and one of our co-creators, Anya Adams, who is now killing it as a TV director, but she was in the DGA training program, and this is a program for people who want to become first ADs. And if that's something you're interested in, we've got 3 guests, I think, at least per season that really talk about this process. And we got one coming up season 5 named Grace Jordan, and she talks about this process. But it's the DGA supports people who want to be on set and run the set. That's what first ADs do. They run the whole set. Everybody got to listen to them. Well, Anya was in the program, but they were not having the same experiences when they went to do their shadowing on set or training on set as they were being told the experiences would be, because they were women, they were people of color, they were women of color. And so the women of color mentors of this program started getting together with them on the weekends for a Sista Brunch where they could be real. They could speak that truth, and they could be like, no, we love you, we nurture you, and here's some things you're going to come up against. And then the women that were experiencing could be like, this thing happened on set. Is this how it's supposed to happen? And the mentors could be like, no, but that's how it's happening now. And so here's how we navigate that. So that's how Sista Brunch was born, was going, having these brunches. I went to one and I was like, oh, the industry keeps telling me there's nobody to hire. And it's like a group of women, raucous, because we do have some alcohol and things like, we have our good time. But I was like, they're all right here. They are all right here. So we need to share these stories. And so that's how we started.
That's beautiful. That just goes back to what we were just talking about. Being in community and telling each other,
Exactly.
like, what are the
That's
landmines?
truth, justice, love right
That's
there.
right there.
That's truth, justice, love. Because then you say the landmines and then you work together to make sure if you're not if you know, like if you're moving on to your next job, make sure that vacant position is filled with that next woman that you were just working with.
Exactly.
That's that justice. That's how we change this system.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I had a previous guest, everything that you mentioned is definitely going to be in the show notes, but we had a previous guest, a good friend of mine, Linda Morale. She's an Emmy Award-winning producer for Key and Peele show. She's the executive producer for Black Lady Sketch Show. And when I had her on, it was maybe 2021 maybe, or 2020. And, you know, she was talking about they wanted her to have an all-black production cast. And she's like, yeah, that would be great. But we don't have, I'm talking about like the van drivers, like those things.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Because as a community, we don't even know that exists. We don't even know that you
were not
can get
encouraged. We were never,
we didn't even know that was a thing, right? So she was saying that that's what we need as well. It's like, we need to pull up people, but we also need to train and disperse
100%.
information. Like, yo, you love doing this? Well, there's a job specifically where you drive a van and you can get hours and you can be part of the system.
Or you like painting, you can get a really good job as a set painter, right? Like all these things that or you like doing theater, there's all this crossover between doing theater and being a first AD. Agreed. And as a matter of fact, that's when I was referring to the inclusion rider, how it's for these 4 steps. Our 4th step of the inclusion rider, and the one that lots of places don't do, that 4th step is that when you look at how you did in your hiring based on some targets that you set, right? That you need to actively set targets of who you're going to hire so that it's more underrepresented people. So at the end, after you've done all your hiring, you look and see how you did. And all those places where you fell short, then you make a meaningful financial contribution. Now, here's the difference. There are a lot of programs. There are lots and lots of programs, and they keep getting to say that, what's wrong with you? We offered you all these programs because the racism is still there. So, and often it don't matter it don't matter how qualified you are. Racism still, sexism still, ableism still exists, right?
Right.
So what we say is give funding based on how on the places where you fell short. Commit to funding the organizations that serve to train those people, because those are Black and brown led. Right. So the Illuminatives, which is for Indigenous people, respectability for people with disabilities. Right. Those are the because let us determine how we going to spend our money on preparing us, which will necessarily include us being like what those women mentors did for Sista Brunch, which is like, here's how you navigate the racism, because that's going to be there too.
Right.
And then the industry needs to check itself. And that's where that's not the inclusion writer's job. It's not the program's job, but that's some white supremacist patriarchal, like y'all need it. If you call yourself anti-racist, you need to get on it. Acknowledge all the policies you've had, or the non-written policies, right? The implicit bias you've had that's leading to what these productions look like, and you need to check yourselves, right? Like that's on you. But that is the challenge, is like we get a little tired of people saying we still need to be trained. Now, the truth is, in some positions, it's just true. Gaffers, transpo, like you said, and we know how to drive, but there's a whole union and guild that makes that difficult too. But what so we got plenty of highly qualified people.
Right.
They're just not getting hired.
Exactly. No, those are definitely great points. I mean, there's so many different touch points that people have to take into consideration. And I think that's a great way to have the people in those certain positions. Like, you want to just talk about it, or you want to be about it? Put money towards it.
No doubt.
Help us.
Right. And give the money to people who look like us, who can determine how that money's spent. Because a lot of times the studios will pay it back into their own human resource. They want to give their own human resources the money, or their own training programs the money. And I'm like, but do you have any data that says that what you're doing is working? And if it's not working, where's the problem?
Right.
Do that, really take a microscope to that and see where's the problem happening. We know the answer is racism, sexism, ableism, all of those things. But they need to see it themselves and then make changes when they find those places.
Right.
Yeah. But to your point too about young people, right? Like, you can do all of these things. You can fight the system. You can make things. What we do need is for y'all to make stuff. Because then we get to point to you, we make it and put it on YouTube, put it on Vimeo, and then get your money, hopefully.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's also another issue, right? Giving them free stuff, your stuff for free or very little cost. But still, the more you're out there, we can find you, and the industry can't say to us that you don't exist. We can be like, this person, look what young people are doing. Young people run circles around every executive I've ever met.
Right.
These folks don't know how to write, shoot, edit, distribute their own content. Right. They know one of those things, and they don't even know that very well often. Young people know how to do every single one. So, let us take you in and be like, look what this person made with nothing. With nothing. You can give them $10K to go make another short. You can give them some more money. Exactly. You can support them.
No, that's for reals. That's crazy. I love that we're having this conversation. I knew that our conversation could go for hours. So
yes, I know.
So let me rein it in. Okay,
rein it in. Something. Yeah, rein me in. Yeah, because I'm on my soapbox.
But I love all the points that you've discussed already, because they're very, very important, and people need to hear it and soak it in and take action. So let's get into the questions and comments from the audience. Okay, this is
I love it.
This is Chris, and I always mess up her name. We know who we're talking about, Chris and Sia, who is the CEO of My Lens Media, that specializes in supporting creators who want to develop their editorial and audience growth strategies. She asks, do you find it easy to continue to center people in the heart space in the industry like Hollywood, where it can feel really hard, especially for someone who was focused on equity and creating space for under-recognized creators? And under-recognized is a term I heard from Chloe Nwangu when I interviewed her on my show, Audio Diaspora. Episode dropped last week, which is going to be months from when this drops. So that's from Chris. We love her. That's actually how I found out about Sista Brunch before I met you, because she told me she was doing it because we go way back.
And I just have to say, and shame on me for talking about Sista Brunch and not talking about the fabulousness of Chris and Sia Bwadi, because Anya and I were just like, we have an idea for a podcast. She was like, well, here's how you do it. And then she ran it for our first 3 seasons. So how dare I? And how fortuitous that she's asking that question. I love under-recognized, right? Because the point is we got to put it on them.
Right.
I can't stand that we also still in some ways are still not able to own who we are and our identities, because it's always like the oppressed, the under, right? And so that's tough. I like to, especially for race, I like to spell it out. I'm like Black, brown, Asian, indigenous, like that's who I'm here for.
Exactly.
Right? But yes, I mean, so how is it to continue to work in the heart of it, I think is like the gist of the question. And it's back to everything we just said, which is like all of us have a role to play in different ways. So I love that there are all these amazing independent filmmakers coming up out of film schools, from the big ones to the smaller ones, who are like, I'm gonna speak my truth. I love organizations like Film Independent that are very much about like, we honor independent filmmakers and therefore filmmakers who are authentic in their storytelling. And in order to have the widest visibility and in order to have the funds to be able to support people like that, somebody's also got to push Hollywood to support that work. I'm on that. I'm on that line because I talk a lot of trash, so I can't always get things done in Hollywood the way others of my colleagues are more appropriate in Hollywood, right? Like maybe they wear their hair straight and they get their nails done, you know, and they work at Disney, you know, at studios. And we need them too. Right. And then we need like the Melina Abdullah, the woman who runs Black Lives Matter LA at Cal State LA, where I did my MFA and taught for a couple semesters. And homegirls like getting arrested, you know, every weekend. Right. And we need all of it. What we don't need is some Candace Owens, like just say that. We don't need that.
No, we don't need that. That does nothing for anybody.
Nothing for anybody, but we exactly. But absolutely, we need folks who have the stamina and the relationships to who in Hollywood. And for me, that's been always a part of like what I felt was my responsibility because of my relationship with Ben and Matt. And I'm like, if you have that kind of access, you best use it. Yeah, to do some good shit. Right. No, yeah. I love myself some Christabel and Sia Boadi. I mean, speaking of walking the walk at also a studio. Right. Exactly. Gosh, you know, she's doing it. She's doing it.
And that event that she put together with her team was a joy to see. Black and Indigenous podcasters that are telling these amazing stories, winning awards. Producers, the actual, you know, all up on stage, and to look around, be at a table and look at the other tables and see nothing but color. Yes. That gave me so much hope of like, okay, we need more people telling stories. There's never enough podcasts. People are like, why do you help other people put out podcasts? And I was like, because we need more of it. It's not competition. Wide. Yes. It's not competition.
The world is wide. We need look how many times they rehash the same. They, meaning white people,
of course.
To be clear, rehash the same. The same story, right. The same, you know, another hospital drama on TV, another, crime drama on TV. I'm like, and you telling us we can only have one podcast?
Right. No.
Oh man, like we are multifaceted. Right. We are multifaceted, and we should create and support.
Exactly.
Nonstop.
Yes.
And that's what you do. That is what you do. I love it. It's so good.
Okay, Fanshen, let's get into the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. Are you ready?
Hold on. Ready.
Okay.
Yes.
3 words to describe yourself.
Okay. Tenacious. Loving, silly.
Love that. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Oof. Okay, I will say as I get older, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but I really am learning this. Somebody did tell me that I don't have to say everything that I think. And I'm still doing it, but I do remember that occasionally when I'm about to get, in trouble for saying something out loud. Like, just because I think it doesn't mean I have to always say it out.
True. I think there's a time and a place sometimes. And I think, yes.
I'm learning.
Yes.
Because if we want to get the work done, we can't, we can't always, we gotta, think
Exactly.
before we say things. Sometimes.
Exactly. Because sometimes maybe the essence of what you're saying is 100%, but maybe the delivery is something different. Or maybe, you know what I mean? Or maybe, let me not keep it 100, but let me keep it 95, 90,
there
80.
There you go. That's what, yes. I could just shave off the 2% and I think we might all be okay.
Maybe
might
we could
get
enter
some stuff
better.
Done.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. So the next one is, what's your go-to song when you need to get hyped? What's heavy rotation when it's like, I need it?
Yeah. Bob Marley's War.
Oh, you just went like this. Most people have to think about it.
No, that one is, because I love it. War. I mean, the whole Survival album, but War is like, that's,
Fantastic. So that's,
it's this monologue about and I don't, this is ironic because ceasefire, right? Like all the way ceasefire. Right. So the song is not about going to war. The song is about resisting against the bullshit, like being aware of it and saying, absolutely not. You're not going to treat me and my people this way. So I want to clarify because I am not a fan of what's happening to brown people,
of course,
right now. And not a fan. I mean, that's not even strong enough. But yeah, see, that's me doing that 2%.
No, but this
friendly.
is the time.
Let's say ceasefire.
Ceasefire. Yeah. And by the time this comes out, let's hope that by the time this episode comes out, which will be maybe a month or two from now, that you'll be like, it's over.
I hope so.
The genocide has ended. The people are free, or some resolution of some sort. Let's hope for that. But your song is going to be added to the Word to Your Mama Guest Hype List song playlist, and it's going to be moved to the front when your episode drops. I'm 100% sure that it's not the first time Bob Marley's on there, but it is the first time that specific song is on there. So thank you for that. Nice. And the final question, Fanshen, is what will be your legacy?
Ooh, save the hard one for the last one. Oh, I mean, so at the end of every Sista Brunch episode, we ask our guests, we say, you're sitting down to a Sista Brunch with your younger self. What are you both eating? What are you both drinking? And what do you tell her? And then each season we compile those for our final episode. And I have this one that I'm like, yeah, this is the one that I want every Black, brown, indigenous, Asian person, no matter what all your other identities are, if that is part of your identity, I want you to know that you belong in every room, space, area that you ever want to be in. You belong there. So don't you dare question whether you belong in any space that you want to be in.
Right. A bar. Yes.
Yes. Go. Be in the space. Take
up all the space.
You belong there. You belong there. No matter what. Walk into every space,
right,
knowing that you belong there.
Exactly. Fantastic.
Yeah. Take it back. Anyway, yeah.
Fanshen, thank you so much. Let the people know everything that is connected to you will be in the show notes. But if there's anything that you're working on, you want people to really grab onto and really visit, let the people know.
Oh, thank you, sister. So definitely head to our website, www. Oh, yeah, we don't have to say that anymore. See, that's for people. Okay. TruJuLo.com, so TruJuLo.com, where you can see all of the projects that we have happening. You can find the inclusion writer. You can find those databases for inclusive hiring. Go there. You can follow us on at TruJuLo Media. We're on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And then Sista Brunch. Please listen to these women, whether or not you identify in that way. We're by and about these women and gender expansive people, but we are for everybody to listen to our guests so you understand what their experience is like. So it's sistabrunch.com, SISTA, and please subscribe to the podcast, follow the podcast, share the podcast with folks, and then follow us at Sista Brunch Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. No, we're on the TruJuLo Media one. So yes.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
well, Fanshen, muchísimas gracias for,
Thank you.
working with the schedule, coming back on to make this happen, for doing all the work that you do with your production and with what you've done with the inclusion writer. I have no doubt that the work you're doing won't stop, will never stop, that you would, if anything, I feel like you're going to go even harder. And I love the stories and the things that you're doing with your production company. And I know you were just at Sundance, and that coverage and seeing that on everything and TikTok. Like, you guys are really doing some real important work and providing a space for important voices. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I'm excited just to see everything that you're doing just expand and grow and touch and make even of a bigger impact. So muchísimas gracias.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm all of that right back at you. It's such a pleasure to follow you, to support you, to continually see the amazing guests that you have on here and be inspired. So all of that right back at you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. Fanshen Cox. How illuminating and real was that convo? I know all of my conversations are real on this podcast, so that's no surprise. But the fact that we have someone in these types of positions who has the opportunity to make significant change, whether it's, like I said, microtasking the revolution, it gives me hope. This conversation further aligns or further, what's the word? Further, it just confirms that we are even more aligned than I thought we were. When I met her at Christabel's event, at Spotify event that I was talking about with Black and brown indigenous folks on stage and the sea of color in the audience in the beautiful Spotify studios in LA, downtown LA. When I met her and we started talking, I was like, oh, there's some similarities, some alignment, and confirmed by this conversation. So super excited about that. My voice is scratchy and itchy because I just got back from New York for two things. I went as a speaker for NFT NYC to talk about catalyzing social good, the new web technologies for social good and impact. And then I had places I had to be because of that. But then I also was there and honored and privileged to be there for the VIP reception at Lincoln Center, which I've never been to. It's gorgeous, for Women in Hip Hop Symposium that was organized and put together by the amazing Martha Diaz. And I was there to witness the city of New York, give her the proclamation that April 5th will be forevermore Women in Hip Hop Day. It was, it was an honor. Do you know, it was raining. And yes, we had an earthquake while I was there. Shout out to Marib and Kano Kano's from Queens. He texted me, he's like, yo, Ritzy over there bringing earthquakes and shit. Earthquakes with aftershocks. We got there, it was raining crazy with the wind. And you know, when you're in New York, you gotta huff and puff it, even if you're taking Ubers. But I was taking Ubers. I was taking a lot of subways because I was like detaching myself from the group, going to different things and just I mean, it was crazy. But anyways, I made it to the VIP reception, ran into my homegirl, Two Fly. Should have her on the podcast soon. And then met her friend. And then I got to see, like, there was this one point where I was like, is that Jazzy Joyce standing there? I was behind her in the VIP reception place. And I was like, is that Jazzy Joyce right there? I was like, I don't know, because she looks different from what I remember. And I was like, I don't know. There's like, who do I ask? I don't know too many people here that were at the reception. And I was like, oh, I want to go up to her. Maybe it's her, maybe it's not. I want to tell her how much I appreciate and love her and take a picture with her. And then I was like, no, I don't know. And then she left and I was like, oh, and then I had someone come, you know, my friends came back and I could have asked them, but shit, I didn't have the opportunity. And then I saw something today that confirmed that was Jazzy Joyce. And I wouldn't have had the balls, but one of my favorite songs that I would always recite is a song that she did with Digable Planets. And she's saying it herself. She's like, Jazzy Joyce on the wheels, Jazzy Joyce, no one smoother. Fatter than a 95 Land Cruiser. Something like that. Anyways, to be there was magical. And to meet Martha Diaz, so many people were swarming her. And I was like, I got to bounce. I was able to catch one panel before, go to the VIP reception, and then I had to bounce. And I was like, ooh, I want to meet her. We're 1 degree separation. She's a Latina preserving and doing all this stuff for hip hop. So I was like waiting, but I didn't want to be rude. So many people the mayor's office just gave her something and it was like photo opportunities. And I was like trying to inch my way. And then she saw me between people and she's like, Ritzy. And I was like, yes. So I got to hug her. We got to take photos. I got to tell her thank you. And I mean, I can't wait to have a conversation. I can't wait to hook up, link up, see what we could do together. I mean, you guys know how important hip hop is to me. I mean, you just heard Carmelita's episode. If you haven't watched or listened to that one, go listen to that. But, you know, women are getting their shine. They're just due. They're just deserves the respect that they should have always had, but never got. And having these conversations, I know that's the first of many more. And it turns out my homegirl, a previous Word to Your Mama guest, Dr. Rachel Ramis, she was supposed to speak at that. But she had to do another amazing event that she put on for disabled directors at the Directors Guild in LA. Because she texted me, about it. And I was like, because I was asking her, do you know Martha D? She goes, yeah, I was supposed to speak at that event. I was like, small world. Good people know good people, especially women in hip hop. And I know there's more that I need to meet and connect with because our stories are so similar. So anyways, and you know the word, you know how we are my ancestors' vintage t-shirts. But I have some new designs that I tried out because I wanted to rep at NFT NYC and at the Women in Hip Hop Symposium. So this is one of the colorways. I don't know if you can see that. This is one of the colorways. If you guys like it, let me know. I'll add it to the shop. I'm also looking. The reason why listen, I've heard it. I'm a V-neck girl. I look better in a V-neck shirt. You know, the way, especially for those with a certain size of the pecho. V-neck's a little bit more flattering and you don't look as bulky, right? It gives you a little breathing room. So I used to have shirts in V-neck, but the quality wasn't that good. So I'm looking for better quality ones. And once I get a sample and it's good, then for sure, please believe it, that will be up on the store. But, there's a discount. I got to go before I start having a coughing attack. I want to talk about my NFT NYC Women in Hip Hop Symposium adventures and craziness that went down. But that's going to go down in the next Word to Your Mama. That should be coming out in May. If you're listening to this when this drops, it's April 17th. So we're only a little bit out of me turning the big 5-0. Just crazy. It's crazy. But yeah. Thank you for the support. You know how you can further support us by telling your folks, telling your peeps, telling your friends. You can listen to this and watch it. That's the latest and the greatest. Watch the whole episode. You know, hand gestures. You know, what are we doing and saying when we're talking to each other? I mean, that's fascinating. You know, but if you can't, listen to it while you're cooking, cleaning, driving, all those good things. But if you get a chance, put it on. You can listen to it. But then, you know, occasionally look over and see the stuff. Subscribe, even if you're not going to be watching a group of them. Subscribe, because I'm trying to get the numbers up so this can get monetized. Like, any way we can support so that we can get more diverse voices out there. And also, there's going to be an announcement about a tech podcast that I'm coming out with this summer. So make sure to listen for that. I'm excited about all these things. So muchísimas gracias for the support. And as always, we reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritzy P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. For partnership inquiries and contact info, check out wordtoyourmama.com. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by ritzyperiwinkle.com. And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner.
Supernatural Bear. Burp.